Okay, today we have a guest. You can present yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is James. I'm a teacher from Australia and I'm going to use a headset microphone, if that's okay. I'll just check it's working. Okay, so that makes me just a little bit louder and it saves my voice. Right. Have you ever had a teacher with a microphone before? No. All right. I'm from Australia. I teach Year 6, I teach Year 5. So I teach 10, 11 and 12-year-olds. I don't teach maths. I don't teach science. I teach a new subject. We have a new subject in Australia. And the new subject is called CCT, which is short for Creative and Critical Thinking. So I teach children how to think creatively, make up ideas. I teach children how to think critically, which means to judge ideas. And I also teach them how to solve problems. We have a lot of problems in Australia. This is the news from just a few days ago. In Sydney, where I come from, can you see the temperature? 47.1 degrees Celsius. Could you imagine how hot that is? I've been in that heat and it feels like you are standing in an oven. Okay, it is so hot. 47.1 degrees in Sydney where I live and teach. I'm so glad I was in Oslo. I was in Oslo 2 days ago and it was -7. And we went to a cabin and it was -13. So I'm glad I'm in Norway and Finland at the moment. So that's a big problem. We have to solve the problem because people can die in that heat. A little baby or an old person, even wildlife can die in that kind of heat. So we have a lot of problems to solve. We have other problems in our schools. Do you know that Australia is filled with dangerous animals? Yeah. I've come to Finland and Norway and I haven't seen a polar bear yet. I was hoping to get attacked by a moose, but it hasn't happened yet. Okay? But if you come to Australia, spiders, snakes, crocodiles, sharks. Now, this is Michelle. Michelle is also a teacher from Australia. And Michelle can tell you a quick story about sharks.
Yes. Do you know the Great Barrier Reef? Have you heard of it? Okay, it's our big famous reef that has beautiful fish, coral, stingrays and sharks, and I have scuba dived in the Great Barrier Reef and swam with reef sharks. They're not great white sharks that eat you, they're reef sharks. And
But they still look scary.
They still look scary and they move very quick.
Yep.
But it's very beautiful on our Great Barrier Reef and underneath in the water. Yeah.
And sometimes school can be dangerous. I have taught kindergarten, your year 1 as well. And one day when I was teaching, a snake came into the classroom, a black snake, which you might die or you may not die if you got bitten by one. But just a few days ago, January the 2nd, in Australia, in a school, in a sand pit where the kindergarten children play, the 5 and 6-year-olds. Do you know what I mean by a sand pit? Where you make things in the sand, tunnels and castles. And the children, the little children, were playing in the sand pit and one of the children found an egg. And they took the egg to the teacher. And so the teacher called the special wildlife people and they came and looked in the sand pit and they dug up the sand pit and they found 43 snake eggs which were about to hatch. So there were 7 nests. That means 7 different eastern brown snakes, one of the most deadly snakes in the world, came and laid their eggs in the sandpit where the children play. And the children were playing in the sandpit and the eggs were only a few days away from hatching. So there would have been 43 baby snakes in with the children in the sandpit. But the wildlife people fortunately took the eggs away and the children were safe. Do you want to come to school in Australia?
No.
So yes, there are lots of dangerous animals in Australia, but we're just really, really careful. And usually we're okay because we're careful. But any question you have about Australia, you can ask me that. But I'm here to teach you a little bit about my subject, CCT, critical and creative thinking and problem solving. For example, that's a problem, snakes coming into the school sandpit to lay eggs. Could you think of, let's try and solve that problem. Can you think of a solution to stop the snakes from coming into the school sandpit and laying their eggs? How can we keep the children safe? Any ideas? We're doing creative thinking now. We're coming up with ideas. Anyone got an idea to help keep the little children safe from the bad snakes? Any ideas? You know what I would do? I'd go to Egypt and I'd buy a mongoose. Do you know what a mongoose is? You know those little creatures that can kill the cobra snakes from Egypt? They're really fast and they always get the snake. I'd go and smuggle one of those animals into Australia and I would tie it up in a little dog kennel and get it to live next to the sandpit. Do you have any other ideas to keep the children safe from the brown snake eggs? The poisonous snake?
Oliver, you look like you're thinking.
Mä koitan miettiä.
Until you have a solution.
It's like those in here.
You can say it in English. Put in what? Indoors. You mean indoors? Put the sandpit indoors. Completely indoors.
That is a great solution. Move the sandpit indoors. Can we give you an Australian gift? I think that is an amazing idea. Would you like a gift from Australia? A souvenir?
Here we go.
All the way from Australia.
Please.
That's such a good idea. I'm going to tell that school your idea. Move the sandpit inside. Have it inside, not outside. That's just too dangerous. So let's move it indoors and that will solve the problem. You just did creative thinking. Creative thinking is when you get ideas. Okay? Let's do some critical thinking. Critical thinking is when you judge the idea. You know what a judge does? You know what a judge? Judge? You decide what's good or bad, what's right or wrong, true or untrue. Judge. Do you mind if we practice judging your idea? Is that okay? We practice judging your idea. So we're going to do critical thinking now. What is good about her idea to move the sandpit indoors? What's good about that? What's good about that idea?
Then the snakes can go there.
Yeah, the snakes can't get in and lay their eggs, so the children are safe. That's a good reason why it's a good idea.
And as in children be safe when it's inside and there is not hot.
Yeah.
It isn't
It's
hot.
not hot, is
Yeah,
there?
apparently.
When it's inside.
Okay, there is not
It's
same.
It's not as hot, right?
Ah, yes. So the children don't have to be in 47 degrees outside playing and getting sunburnt and feeling sick and horrible from the hot weather. That's awesome. So your idea is good for lots of reasons. The children can play in the shade indoors. Any other reasons why it's a good idea? Is there anything bad about the idea? Is there anything about the idea that might have problems or may not work that good? Is there anything bad about the idea?
the sand would be everywhere around.
Yes, we could end up with a lot of sand being spread in through the school and the children walking through all the classrooms and everywhere you walk there's a bit of sand. So that could be a problem from that solution. So sometimes we come up with an idea to fix a problem, but then that idea has its own problems. So then we have to come up with another solution to fix that problem of all the sand everywhere. Good thinking. So you just did critical thinking. Got the idea? All right. Could I ask you, I get you to do a test, a CCT test. So in Australia, besides teaching CCT, I test them to check how good they are at their critical and creative thinking and if they're getting better. All right?
Sorry to
Thank
interrupt
you.
you.
I wonder why schools from Finland and Australia and Singapore and everywhere else, I wonder why they think CCT is so important. In fact, they think it's just as important as maths and science. Why do you think problem solving and critical and creative thinking are so important that we're going to now do tests?
Because it can help you in life, even more than natural science or anything.
Yes, to the ability to solve problems and to think creatively and think critically, you are going to need these skills in your job, no matter what your job. So it's not enough to just read and write and do a bit of maths. You'll need to be a good problem solver as well. So that's why we teach critical and creative thinking. Okay? So we're going to do this test. This is a cool test because there's no wrong answer. Does that sound like a good test? There's no wrong answer. It's creative thinking. You will come up with your own ideas and your ideas will be different to your ideas. So everyone will have different answers. And you have to come up with ideas and then you have to judge your ideas as you try and solve a problem. Does that sound okay? And Helmi will translate the test from English to Finnish. You are allowed to answer, so you write your answer and you can write it in Finnish or English. Finnish is fine. I will mark the test. I have a friend who will translate from Finnish to English. And then I will send the scores back to Helmi. And if you would like to know your score, Helmi will tell you your score in critical and creative thinking. Would you like to know how good your brain is at critical and creative thinking right now? Let's find out. Let's do the test.